Our story today begins with a group of people seated by the sea enjoying a wonderful time and preparing the food they've brought to eat together. Suddenly, they spot a strange boat approaching them, completely empty and moving at a very high speed. And then as soon as the boat docks, they are shocked to find a decomposed corpse inside, evidently dead for a considerable time. A few hours later, the authorities arrive, accompanied by Commander John. The medical examiner then begins to thoroughly explain to him what she had seen within the body. He's shocked to learn from her that the body has no bones and the remaining flesh is strangely consumed, as if someone had taken the corpse and removed all its bones. They're naturally shocked by this, wondering who could possibly do such a thing. John realizes there's a great mystery behind this incident and requests the body be transferred to the center for a complete autopsy. They're received by a doctor named Yakub, who then begins to examine the body himself. Jacob explains to John that someone had meticulously removed every single bone from inside the corpse, as if he knew precisely what he was doing. The only question that truly lingers in their minds is, why would someone do this? Jacob then discovers a strange bee-like insect inside the corpse. He carefully takes it, places it in a jar, and hands it over to John. He asks Connie to hold on to it, as it will certainly be good evidence for them later on once they get any new lead. A few hours later, they discover that the man who was murdered is named Dr. Cold. He was a very renowned scientist and he had moved to live in this area approximately a year ago. Everyone loved him. They found his wallet and some personal belongings with him on the boat. They also learned he was a university professor who just months ago left everything to live alone in the forest, and there he started acting quite strangely. To gather more information, they decide to go to the house where he was staying. At that moment, Maggie, John's old girlfriend, arrives. Since she's a tour guide and knows the area very well, John comes and asks for her help to go with them there and guide them on their way. He learns from her that she met this scientist some time ago, got to know him, and he helped her with certain things. She confirms he's a very strange person, behaving unnaturally. He was working on a secret experiment alone, refusing to share any details. And when she learns John needs her help, she agrees without a second thought and prepares her tools. She takes Dr. Yakub with her because John insisted he be with them, and when he searches on the internet, he discovers that this scientist had a young daughter. She too disappeared about a year ago, and no one has been able to find her or know anything about her whereabouts until this very moment. Within just a few hours, he and Yakub Maji get ready and head towards the forest until they finally reach the river. They leave the car and board a boat to continue their journey home. A few hours later, she calls John and tells him something very strange. The insect suddenly died, and then just a few hours later, she returned to life as if nothing had happened. She offers to take the insect to the laboratory for analysis, but he refuses, asking her to wait for him until he returns. And then they'll decide what to do. She also tells him that after the scientist's daughter vanished, his wife had a very severe mental breakdown and stayed for about 3 months in a mental hospital. All the time she kept saying her husband was the reason for her daughter's disappearance, and no one believed her at all. She refused to continue with him after what happened. And after that, with tremendous effort, John, Maggie, and Jacob reach the scientist's house. They're shocked by its very terrifying exterior, and the atmosphere there is not pleasant at all. And it's clear he didn't care about anything around him, not even the cleanliness of the place. Maggie gets very upset and assures them that she'd been here a few months ago. The place was very nice, and she's completely surprised how it got to this state. Because John is so worried, he asks Jacob to wait outside with Maggie. He insists on going in alone first to make sure there's no danger inside. He's even more surprised when he steps inside and discovers everything is broken and destroyed, as if no one had ever truly lived there. He keeps searching room after room and feels like there's something wrong with the ceiling. By chance, he finds a locked room and is determined to open it by any means because he's sure he'll find something important inside. And once he's certain there's nothing unusual, he calls Jacob and Maggie to come inside and decide to stay here until morning, as they can't return to the forest at such a late hour. The three of them then sense that there's something peculiar about this house, and soon they begin to hear terrifying noises echoing all around them. Meanwhile, John attempts to reassure Maggie so she won't remain frightened, telling her it could just be the sound of a mouse, nothing more. And the situation frightens them even more because they find the lights turning on and off by themselves, and they wonder what could be causing all of this to happen. Then by chance, they find a door that leads to a ground floor. They open it and the three of them go down with the flashlight. And below, they find a very strange and large machine. It's clearly a powerful source of electricity and energy. They're afraid to approach it, fearing they might do something wrong and get hurt. Maggie believes this machine is part of the research the scientist was conducting, as he had spoken about it previously. They confirm that the wires led upwards. When they reach the wires location, John discovers they are in the same locked room. He's very surprised that the door now opens by itself with such ease. The three of them enter together and find terrifying images on the wall, indicating that black magic was being performed here in this place. And there are many mysterious signs with no explanation, and many scientific elements are found. This means he was using his science with black magic, blending them to perform his experiment. Suddenly, while searching through these things, A spider appears and bites Jacob on his face. He then rushes out of the room, scared, terrified, and in agony. John calls Connie, explaining in great detail what occurred at the house and all the things he had uncovered. Suddenly, as he's speaking to her, a strange electromagnetic radiation emerges. The entire network cuts off and the call disconnects. At this point, Jacob and John are arguing, and we discover Maggie was Jacob's ex-girlfriend long before she ever met John. And that's why the two of them are extremely jealous of each other. There's constant tension among all three and they barely manage to get along. When it's time to sleep, John thinks they should all sleep together in the same place because it would be safer for them and more reassuring, but Maggie refuses and insists on sleeping in her own room, assuring him she'll be more comfortable that way. In the middle of the night, Jacob's condition worsens significantly due to the spider bite. He suddenly wakes up from his sleep and begins to act in a very strange way. Meanwhile, Maggie feels she can't sleep, so she goes to talk to John. Neither of them has any idea what the spider is doing. A few minutes later, they hear a strange sound outside. John gets nervous, grabs Maggie and his weapon and goes out so they can see what's going on. They're then shocked to find a woman holding a weapon and threatening them. They discover she's the scientist's wife who had left him some time ago. When she learned what happened to her husband, she came to understand how this occurred. John tries to calm her down, assuring her he's an officer and would never harm her. He explains everything that happened in detail until she calms down and puts down her weapon. This is because she's convinced they would never hurt her, so they take her inside the house and go to the strange device located downstairs. You might be able to find a way to get the device working. Unfortunately, Maggie doesn't realize a strange shadow is following her and she's in real danger. By chance, she discovers a doll lying on the floor. She's drawn to it and decides to keep it for herself. At that moment, John realizes Jacob isn't there and steps outside to search for him. Accidentally, he notices a strange light and sounds coming from the floor above. And quickly, the three of them go up and are shocked to find Jakub has tied himself to all the wires connected to the machine. Something very strange then happens to him as if he's transforming. They manage to reach him at the very last moment and pull him out of the machine, and he eventually faints. When he regains consciousness, he acts very strangely, looking around constantly without uttering a single word. At that very moment, she starts to hear her daughter's voice in the room. She's very surprised and feels something is wrong, trying to find the source of the sound. A few hours later, Jakub improves a bit and John tries to talk to him to understand exactly what happened, how he even got to that upstairs room, and why he connected himself to the device. The strange thing is, Jakub doesn't remember anything or understand how it happened. Meanwhile, Linda remains standing in front of the device, looking at it in a very strange way, until Maya comes and asks what she's doing, pushing her to share any information about the device. Linda explains to her that this is an electromagnetic machine that can create a very strong magnetic field. She warns her and assures her that this machine is very dangerous to humans. Then John takes her to the room with the strange pictures. As soon as she sees them, she becomes much more terrified than before. She tells them that she has been married for 10 years and assures them her husband has no connection to these things, nor does he understand anything at all about them. Surely something else is controlling him, something much bigger and far more powerful than him, and surely that's what led him to this tragic end. By chance, they find a computer, and to open it, they need the password. John asks Lynn to help him. Maybe she can guess the password since she knows her husband so well, but then she's shocked looking out the window to see her husband standing there, safe and sound, watching her from afar. Overwhelmed, she runs, trying to reach him quickly before he disappears, and that's when the shock truly hit, because he's actually alive. Out of sheer shock, she slaps him and starts arguing, demanding to know where he had been all this time. Once he steps inside, John pressures him to speak and they all question him, asking why he would do such a thing because they were convinced the body in the boat was his. And then he tells everything that happened in detail during his absence. What's strange is that scientist Cole laughs at everything they say, refusing to share any information about the device. Meanwhile, Connie at the police station has been trying to call John for hours, unable to reach him at all. She's very worried and needs to tell him crucial information because the insect has changed, transforming into a new one that keeps dying and coming back to life, and she's certain of it. Because something is clearly wrong. Meanwhile, Jacob becomes much more exhausted than before and his condition rapidly deteriorates. He starts acting in a very strange manner, remaining silent all the time. He also senses that various unusual things are appearing on his body. Even his fingernails are growing at an accelerated rate, transforming as if they were hooves. He feels himself becoming much stronger and his teeth have grown incredibly powerful. He even sees his own bones, and his pupil appears as two. He understands all this is due to the radiation that came from the device. Throughout this entire period, John kept pressing Cole to speak. But unfortunately, he refuses to say anything at all and tries to get lost in his words. He doesn't even say where he was hiding for the past few days or what he was doing. And Jacob enters upon them. The strange thing is he says nothing about what's happening to him, falling silent the moment Cole looks at him as if Cole controls him, able to manipulate him. A few hours later, Lynn hears Jacob's voice from the room. She goes in to check on him but is shocked to find him transforming in a terrifying way, and she doesn't know how to help him. Meanwhile, John takes her aside to talk privately. Suddenly, Lynn calls out asking them to return quickly, but when they see Jacob's body, they're shocked, realizing this place is dangerous and they must leave immediately. As they pack their things and head out, they discover their boat is missing. Naturally, Cole is the first suspect. John loses control, fighting and hitting him, demanding answers. When he insists on staying silent, John decides to tie him up so he can't move, bother, or harm them again. In return, she offers that they search the area they're in, as they might find someone who can help them get out of here. So John takes him along and they keep walking until they reach a nearby campsite. They are utterly shocked to discover everything around them completely shattered. Upon entering to search the premises, they encounter bodies strewn about and entirely disfigured. Overwhelmed by intense horror, they swiftly flee from the scene. She becomes extremely ill with him, continuously vomiting due to the horrific sight she has witnessed. John tries his best to calm her down. Meanwhile, Linda remains with Cole until their return, attempting to understand the truth and precisely what he is doing. You keep on thinking and pondering until you finally guess the secret password. After numerous attempts, you eventually manage to unlock the computer. There, you discover truly horrifying video clips and you realize that Cole has conducted extensive experiments on many individuals, utilizing this very machine for his disturbing trials, and his behavior is utterly terrifying. It becomes clear that malevolent forces are controlling him and influencing all his actions. Ultimately, you discover that he too used this machine on himself and he is indeed dead. The body they found is his, and the person among them now is not her husband, and unfortunately, this is an evil entity. The biggest shock is that he did the same experiment on his young daughter, and that's why the girl disappeared. A few minutes later, Cole manages to free himself and locks her in the room so he can complete his experiment to the end. When John and Maggie return, they don't find him there, realizing he's done something. John tells Maggie to wait here and not go in with him. He grabs a weapon and goes to see what's going on. He's shocked to see Jacob's body explode right before his eyes, and a terrifying creature emerges from it, attacking John and trying to kill him. Unfortunately, John can't save himself in any way, and luckily for him, Maggie enters at the right time with a weapon and keeps shooting at the camera. Endner attacks from all sides until he finally dies. John realizes the machine is behind it all. He's determined to destroy it because it's a threat to humanity, and he fears for Maggie. He tells her to leave, deciding to burn the device himself. He gets gasoline and starts pouring it everywhere. At the same time, Linda manages to leave the room, grabs an axe, and decides to kill by any means to avenge what he did to her daughter. And as soon as she gets there, she finds her daughter standing before her, safe and sound. She loses her mind and Linda keeps following her. Unfortunately, she also enters the device and falls into the trap. At that moment, Cole manages to do something, releasing all the victims transformed by the device, and they all appear in the heart of the forest. They all head towards the house together. Maggie tries to kill as many of them as possible, but unfortunately, the whole thing is far too much for her to handle. She can't control the situation by herself and doesn't know how to react. John continues his plan, filling the entire device with gasoline and prepares to set it on fire. At the same time, Linda has transformed. As soon as Maggie sees her, she understands what happened and is forced to kill her too. Then, a big war breaks out between Cole and John, and each one of them tries to finish off the other by any means. John waits for the right moment, grabs a large piece of wood, and keeps hitting him until he finally gets rid of him. He's able to set the machine on fire just as he wanted, and the fire starts to spread throughout the entire place. Maggie is afraid for John. She keeps calling out to him, telling him to escape quickly, and she is forced to leave the house at that very moment. John is then shocked when Cole comes back to life again and attacks him. He holds onto him tightly, preventing his escape because he wants to die with them. Unfortunately, within just a few seconds, the entire house explodes and everything inside is destroyed. And John is sacrificing his own life to save all of humanity and to destroy this machine. Meanwhile, Maggie is unconscious outside. When she wakes up, she's shocked by what happened, finding herself alone in the heart of the forest. A few months later, we discover she's pregnant at home, receiving Connie and taking John's personal belongings from her. The strange thing is she takes everything, burns it, and gets rid of it. In the final scene, we're all shocked to learn that the real Maggie actually died in the forest that very day, and that the Maggie living in her house isn't real, wanting to continue Cole's path. And even the child in her womb is not normal. He will turn out to be an exact clone of her, and unfortunately, all of humanity will be on the verge of collapse because of her. And with that, we've reached the end of our story for today, so make sure to stay tuned for new videos and summaries. Goodbye.